Sharks are apex predators, their powerful jaws and sharp teeth making them formidable hunters. Each year there are numerous reports of shark attacks worldwide, showcasing the unpredictable nature of these sea creatures. Bull sharks, known for their aggression and ability to swim in both salt and fresh water, are particularly dangerous. Alongside them, other sea creatures like stingrays, jellyfish, and barracudas pose significant risks to swimmers and divers. In this video, we explore 6 harrowing attacks that highlight the ever-present dangers lurking beneath the waves. Discover the chilling reality of what happens when humans encounter these ocean predators. On a warm July day in 2011, the sun shone brightly over the bustling sands of Brighton Beach in Miami. This popular destination was known for its family-friendly atmosphere and calm waters. The beach was packed with people enjoying their summer break. Children built sandcastles, teenagers played volleyball, and families set up picnics under colorful umbrellas. Among the crowd was Sandra Miller, a 48-year-old woman weighing around 500 pounds. Sandra had come to Brighton Beach with her husband, Roger Miller, and their 2 children, 10-year-old Ethan and 8-year-old Lily. They had been planning this beach outing for weeks. It was a much-needed break from their busy lives. Sandra worked as a school librarian, and Roger was a mechanic. The family rarely had the chance to enjoy a day together like this. The day they had started perfectly. Sandra and Roger woke up early to pack a cooler with sandwiches, snacks, and drinks. They arrived at Brighton Beach around 10 a.m., securing a spot near the lifeguard tower. Roger set up their beach chairs while Sandra helped Ethan and Lily apply sunscreen. The children immediately ran towards the waves, eager to splash and play. Sandra watched her children with a smile as she settled into her chair, enjoying the feel of the sun on her skin. The ocean was inviting, its waves gentle and soothing. Brighton Beach was known for its calm, shallow waters, making it a favorite spot for families with young children. But hidden beneath the surface, the waters of Florida were also home to various species of sharks, including the notorious bull shark. Bull sharks were known for their aggressive behavior and ability to thrive in both salt and fresh water. They often ventured close to the shore in search of food. Although shark attacks were rare, they were not unheard of in this area. The presence of these predators added a layer of tension to an otherwise perfect day at the beach. As the morning turned into the afternoon, the beach became even more crowded. The sounds of laughter and splashing filled the air. Sandra decided to join her children in the water. She stood up and made her way to the shore, feeling the warm sand between her toes. Roger followed her with a camera, ready to capture the memories of their perfect day. Sandra slowly waded into the water, the cool waves lapping at her legs. Ethan and Lily squealed with delight as their mother joined them. The family spent the next hour playing in the shallow waters, unaware of the danger lurking nearby. Around 2 p.m., as the sun reached its peak, the tranquility of Brighton Beach was shattered. Sandra was waist-deep in the water, enjoying the gentle waves when a dark shadow moved swiftly beneath the surface. In an instant, a massive bull shark, drawn by the commotion and splashing, struck with terrifying speed. The shark's powerful jaws clamped down on Sandra's leg, dragging her under the water. The sudden attack sent shockwaves through the beach. Panic erupted as people screamed and scrambled to get out of the water. Lifeguards blew their whistles, signaling an emergency. Roger, who had been standing nearby with the camera, froze in horror as he saw the water around Sandra turn red. He dropped the camera and rushed into the water, trying to reach his wife. The shark, relentless in its attack, bit down harder, tearing into Sandra's flesh. She struggled to break free, her cries of pain mixing with the chaos around her. Several beachgoers witnessing the horrific scene joined Roger in an attempt to save Sandra. They splashed and kicked at the water, trying to scare the shark away. The lifeguards sprang into action, grabbing rescue equipment and diving into the water. One of the lifeguards, Jake Thompson, armed himself with a long pole and swam towards Sandra. Jake reached Sandra and managed to wedge the pole into the shark's mouth, prying it open just enough for Sandra to pull her leg free. The shark, momentarily stunned, retreated into deeper waters. Roger and the others grabbed Sandra and began dragging her towards the shore, her leg badly mauled and bleeding profusely. The shark, however, was not done. It circled back, sensing the blood in the water. It lunged again, this time biting into Sandra's other leg. The force of the bite was enough to break bones and tear muscles. Sandra's screams grew weaker as she lost more blood. But the beachgoers did not give up. They continued their frantic efforts to fend off the shark. Jake used the pole to jab at the shark repeatedly, while Roger and another man, Tom Jacobs, tried to shield Sandra's body with their own. The shark, undeterred, bit down on the pole, snapping it in half. Jake quickly grabbed another piece of equipment, a life buoy, and swung it at the shark's head, finally driving it away. The lifeguards quickly formed a human chain, pulling Sandra out of the water and onto the shore. Blood streamed from her legs, staining the sand. The paramedics, already alerted by the lifeguards, rushed to her side with medical kits. They worked quickly to stop the bleeding, applying tourniquets and bandages. Sandra's face was pale, her breathing shallow. Roger held her hand, his eyes filled with tears. Ethan and Lily, who had been taken to a safe distance by a kind stranger, watched in horror as their mother was tended to by the paramedics. The beachgoers stood in stunned silence, some offering prayers, others crying. The paramedics decided that Sandra needed to be airlifted to the nearest hospital due to the severity of her injuries. A helicopter was called, and within minutes it landed on the beach. Sandra was carefully loaded onto a stretcher and lifted into the helicopter with Roger by her side. Ethan and Lily were taken to the hospital by a family friend who had been at the beach with them. Sandra's condition remained critical. The doctors fought to save her leg, but the damage was severe. Roger and the children spent long hours at the hospital, hoping and praying for her recovery. The beach that had once been a place of joy for their family had turned into a nightmare. On a crisp August morning in 2009, the serene waters of Puget Sound, Washington, were the perfect setting for an adventurous kayaking trip. The air was cool and the sky was a clear, vibrant blue. The calm waters mirrored the picturesque surroundings, making it an ideal day for outdoor enthusiasts. Among the group of friends eager to explore the natural beauty of Puget Sound were David Parker, a 30-year-old outdoor instructor, his best friend Kevin Smith, a software engineer, and two sisters, Laura and Alda Johnson, both in their late 20s. The friends had planned this kayaking trip for months, anticipating the chance to escape their busy lives and enjoy the tranquility of nature. David, being the most experienced, led the group, giving a brief overview of the route and safety tips. The group set off from a small, secluded beach, their kayaks gliding smoothly over the glassy surface. The sound of paddles dipping in and out of the water was rhythmic and soothing. Puget Sound was known for its rich marine life, including the majestic orcas, also known as killer whales. These apex predators were a common sight, often seen swimming gracefully in pods, their dorsal fins slicing through the water. While generally known to be curious and playful, orcas had also been observed displaying aggressive behavior, especially when protecting their young or hunting. As they paddled further from the shore, the friends marveled at the beauty around them. Seals basked on nearby rocks, and seabirds called out as they soared overhead. It was a perfect day, filled with laughter and the excitement of discovery. The group stayed close together, enjoying each other's company and the shared experience. Around noon, they decided to take a break and drifted near a small island. They anchored their kayaks and took out snacks and water from their dry bags. David pointed out the distant shape of an orca pod, its black and white bodies visible as they breached the surface. The sight was mesmerizing, and the group watched in awe. David explained how orcas in Puget Sound were part of two distinct groups: resident orcas, which primarily fed on fish, and transient orcas, known for hunting marine mammals. He shared interesting facts about their social structure, communication, and hunting techniques. The group listened intently, fascinated by the intelligence and power of these creatures. After their break, they resumed paddling, venturing into deeper waters. The initial excitement of spotting the orcas had given way to a sense of caution. They knew that while orcas rarely attacked humans, their size and strength made them formidable creatures. As the afternoon sun began to descend, casting long shadows on the water, the group noticed the orca pod drawing closer. At first, it seemed like a magical moment, a chance to observe these magnificent animals up close. The friends paddled slowly, careful not to disturb the pod. But then the mood shifted. The orca's movements became more erratic. The largest orca, a male with a tall, prominent dorsal fin, swam directly towards David's kayak. With a powerful thrust, it bumped the kayak, almost capsizing it. David struggled to keep his balance, his heart racing. The friends exchanged worried glances, realizing that they were in a dangerous situation. The orcas began circling the kayaks, their behavior becoming increasingly aggressive. The water churned as they swam around the group, creating waves that rocked the kayaks. Kevin's kayak was hit next, the impact nearly knocking him into the water. He gripped his paddle tightly, trying to steer away from the pod. Laura and Alda, both visibly shaken, tried to stay close to David and Kevin. The orcas continued their assault, bumping and nudging the kayaks with alarming force. David shouted instructions, urging everyone to remain calm and use their paddles to fend off the orcas. The largest orca made another pass, this time ramming into Alda's kayak. The force was so strong that it cracked the hull, water quickly seeping in. Alda screamed in terror as her kayak began to sink. Laura paddled frantically towards her sister, trying to help, but another orca blocked her path. David and Kevin managed to reach Alda just in time. They grabbed her arms and pulled her into Kevin's kayak, which wobbled precariously under the added weight. The orcas, undeterred, continued their aggressive behavior, their sleek bodies moving swiftly through the water. In a desperate attempt to escape, the group paddled towards a nearby fishing boat that had appeared on the horizon. The boat's captain, seeing the distress, steered towards them, honking the horn to scare off the orcas. The sound momentarily distracted the pod, giving the friends a brief respite. David, Kevin, Laura, and Alda paddled with all their strength, their muscles aching and their breaths labored. The orcas followed closely, their dorsal fins cutting through the water like knives. Just as it seemed the orcas would make another strike, the fishing boat arrived, positioning itself between the kayakers and the orcas. The boat's crew threw ropes to the kayakers, pulling them aboard one by one. Alda was first, her face pale and her body trembling. Laura followed, then Kevin, and finally David, who refused to leave until he was sure his friends were safe. The orcas circled the boat for a few moments longer before finally retreating into the depths of Puget Sound. The friends collapsed on the deck, their bodies shaking from exhaustion and fear. The boat's captain radioed for help and they headed back to the mainland. The group remained silent, processing the terrifying encounter they had just survived. As the boat approached the shore, the friends began to recover from their ordeal. They knew they had been fortunate to escape with their lives, thanks to the timely arrival of the fishing boat. The experience had left them with a newfound respect for the sea and its inhabitants, a reminder of the thin line between awe and danger. Their kayaking adventure had turned into a harrowing tale of survival, one that they would never forget. In the humid heat of a July morning in 2007, the dense mangrove swamps of northern Australia buzzed with the sounds of wildlife. The sun had just begun to rise, casting a golden glow over the labyrinth of roots and muddy waters that made up the landscape. These swamps were a haven for a variety of creatures, from colorful birds and crustaceans to the apex predator of the region, the saltwater crocodile. Known locally as salties, these crocodiles were the largest reptiles on Earth, capable of growing up to 23 feet in length and weighing over a ton. Their stealth and power made them formidable hunters, often lying in wait for unsuspecting prey. The swamps of northern Australia, particularly near the fictional town of Wurrung, were their territory. On this particular morning, Jericho Thompson, a 32-year-old fisherman, was preparing for a day of fishing with his friends. Jericho, a lifelong resident of Wurrung, had fished these waters since he was a boy. His companions for the day were Sam Harris, a 28-year-old carpenter, and Tom Richards, a 30-year-old teacher. The trio had planned this outing to relax and catch up, hoping to bring back a good haul of fish for their families. They set out early, their small motorboat cutting through the still waters of the swamp. The day began peacefully, with the men chatting and laughing as they navigated through the maze of mangrove roots. They anchored the boat in a shallow area known for its abundant fish. Jericho, experienced in the ways of the swamp, waded into the knee-deep water, casting his net with practiced skill. Sam and Tom stayed in the boat, preparing their fishing lines and keeping an eye on the surroundings. The mangroves were beautiful yet eerie, their twisted roots forming natural tunnels and hiding spots. It was easy to forget amidst the tranquility, the dangers that lurked beneath the surface. Jericho's day was going well. He had already caught several fish and was feeling optimistic. The warm sun on his back and the rhythmic sound of the water were soothing. The friends talked about their lives, their families, and their plans for the future, enjoying the rare chance to be together without the distractions of daily life. As the morning wore on, Jericho waded further from the boat, intent on finding a spot with more fish. He moved carefully, aware of the mud's sucking grip and the sharp roots that could trip him. The water was murky, making it difficult to see more than a few inches below the surface. The stillness was deceptive, masking the presence of a silent predator. Suddenly, the water erupted in a violent splash. Without warning, a massive saltwater crocodile lunged at Jericho, its powerful jaws closing around his leg with a bone-crushing force. The attack was swift and brutal, with the crocodile's ambush catching Jericho completely off guard. Pain shot through his body as he struggled to free himself, his heart pounding in his chest. Sam and Tom, still in the boat, saw the water churn and heard Jericho's scream. They jumped into action, grabbing oars and anything else they could find to help their friend. The crocodile, intent on its prey, began to drag Jericho towards deeper water, its massive body thrashing in the muddy shallows. Jericho's survival instincts kicked in. He knew that struggling too much could make the crocodile's death more likely, a maneuver that could easily drown him or tear his limbs apart. He tried to kick at the crocodile's eyes and nose, the most sensitive parts of its body, but the beast's grip was too strong. The water around them turned red with blood, the sight adding to the horror of the situation. Sam and Tom reached the scene, their oars striking the water with force. They shouted and splashed, trying to distract the crocodile. Tom managed to land a hit on the crocodile's head, momentarily stunning it. The crocodile loosened its grip on Jericho, who seized the opportunity to pull free. He scrambled through the water, his leg mangled and bleeding heavily. The crocodile, enraged and still hungry, turned its attention to Sam, who continued to beat the water with his oar. Sam and Tom worked together, their movements frantic but coordinated. They managed to push the crocodile back, forcing it to retreat temporarily. The crocodile's eyes glared at them from the water's edge, its presence a constant threat. Jericho, despite the excruciating pain, used the surrounding mangroves for cover, moving as quickly as he could towards the boat. Sam and Tom helped him, their eyes never leaving the crocodile. The friends moved through the thick roots and muddy waters, every step a struggle against the pain and fear. The crocodile, undeterred, lunged again, its jaws snapping shut inches from Tom's leg. The men continued to fend it off, their adrenaline-fueled efforts a desperate attempt to survive. Jericho's vision blurred and his strength waned, but the sight of the boat and the thought of his family kept him moving. Finally, they reached the boat. Sam and Tom helped Jericho clamber aboard, their hands slick with blood and sweat. The crocodile made one last charge, ramming the side of the boat with its powerful body. The impact nearly capsized them, but the men held on, their determination unshaken. Tom started the motor and they sped away from the danger, the sound of the engine mixing with their ragged breaths. The men knew they had narrowly escaped death, their hearts heavy with the reality of the encounter. Jericho's journey back to the shore was a blur of pain and exhaustion. His friends did their best to stop the bleeding and keep him conscious. The boat cut through the water, each minute bringing them closer to safety. Once on land, the men carried Jericho to the nearest road, where they flagged down a passing car. The driver, seeing the severity of Jericho's injuries, rushed them to the nearest hospital. The swift actions of Sam and Tom saved Jericho's life, and their bravery and quick thinking were a testament to their friendship. In the vibrant waters off the coast of the Bahamas, a group of friends embarked on a diving trip that promised adventure and discovery. It was June 2005, and the azure sea sparkled under the Caribbean sun. The group consisted of 4 experienced divers: Jack Riley, a marine biologist, his sister Megan Riley, a professional diver, their friend Declan Benson, a photographer, and Sarah Cook, a marine ecologist. They had been planning this trip for months, eager to explore the rich marine life that the Bahamas were known for. The waters around the Bahamas were teeming with life, from colorful coral reefs to a variety of fish species. But it was also home to numerous shark species, including the distinctive hammerhead shark. Known for their unique hammer-shaped heads, these sharks were both fascinating and intimidating. Hammerhead sharks were usually not aggressive toward humans, but their size and power demanded respect and caution. On this particular day, the group set out from a small diving resort on the fictional island of Sanmar. They were well prepared with all their gear checked and double-checked. The boat ride to the dive site was filled with excitement and anticipation. Jack briefed the group on the dive plan, emphasizing safety and reminding everyone to stay close together. The dive site was a well-known spot called Shark Reef, famous for its diverse marine life and occasional shark sightings. As the boat anchored, the divers suited up and did final equipment checks. One by one, they rolled backward into the water, bubbles rising around them as they descended into the depths. The underwater world was breathtaking. Schools of fish darted around them, and vibrant corals created a stunning backdrop. The group moved gracefully through the water, their movements synchronized and calm. Jack pointed out various species while Declan captured the beauty on his underwater camera. Megan and Sarah swam alongside, their eyes scanning the surroundings for any signs of larger marine life. After about 20 minutes of exploring, the group spotted the silhouettes of hammerhead sharks in the distance. There were about 6 of them, their distinctive heads cutting through the water. The divers stopped, maintaining a respectful distance, and watched in awe. The sharks moved with an eerie grace, their eyes seeming to take in everything around them. At first, the encounter was thrilling. The hammerheads circled slowly, curious but not approaching too closely. Jack signaled to the group to remain calm and still, knowing that sudden movements could startle the sharks. The divers floated quietly, their breath steady and controlled. As the minutes passed, the sharks' behavior began to change. The once distant circling grew tighter and the hammerheads moved closer. The water felt charged with tension. The sharks' curiosity seemed to turn into something more intense, their movements more deliberate. Jack noticed the shift and signaled to the group to start a slow ascent. It was important to remain calm and avoid provoking the sharks. The divers began to rise, maintaining a steady pace. The hammerheads, however, were not ready to let them go. One of the larger sharks swam directly towards Jack, bumping him with its head. Jack's heart raced, but he kept his composure, gently pushing the shark away with his hand. The shark veered off but remained close. Declan, trying to capture the scene on camera, was next. A smaller hammerhead brushed against his legs, its eyes cold and watchful. Declan gripped his camera tightly, focusing on breathing and keeping his movements slow. Megan and Sarah stayed close, their eyes darting between the sharks and their ascent path. The sharks seemed to grow more agitated. Another shark nudged Sarah, its rough skin grazing her arm. She winced but stayed steady, following Jack's lead. The group was halfway to the surface, but the sharks were persistent, circling closer and closer. Suddenly, one of the hammerheads lunged at Declan, snapping its jaws just inches from his face. Declan instinctively pushed back with his camera, the flash startling the shark momentarily. The group tightened their formation, using their gear to create a barrier between them and the sharks. The ascent felt painfully slow. The sharks' aggression was palpable, their sleek bodies moving with unnerving precision. Jack used his diving knife to tap against his tank, creating a loud, sharp noise to deter the sharks. It worked briefly, giving the group a few moments of respite. But the sharks returned, their interest unyielding. Megan felt a sharp tug at her fin and looked down to see a hammerhead biting it. She kicked free, her heart pounding. The surface was tantalizingly close, but the sharks were relentless. The divers' movements were coordinated but strained, every second feeling like an eternity. They kept their eyes on each other, silently communicating through hand signals and nods. The boat was now visible above them, a beacon of safety. Just as the tension seemed unbearable, the group reached the safety stop, a crucial pause before surfacing to prevent decompression sickness. The sharks continued to circle, but the divers remained vigilant, holding their position. The final ascent was the most nerve-wracking. The sharks were still too close for comfort. When they finally broke the surface, the boat crew was ready. They hauled the divers aboard, their faces a mix of relief and exhaustion. The sharks lingered below, their presence a stark reminder of the ocean's wild unpredictability. The boat ride back to the resort was silent, each diver processing the intense encounter. They had faced one of the ocean's most formidable predators and emerged unscathed. It was an experience that would stay with them forever, a tale of tension, teamwork, and the raw power of nature. In the icy wilderness of Antarctica, the landscape stretched out in a vast white expanse. It was February 2003, and the Antarctic summer was in full swing. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the snow and ice. The air was cold, but the beauty of the place was overwhelming. Among the researchers and adventurers in this remote part of the world was a wildlife photographer named Lewis Carter. Lewis was 35 years old and passionate about capturing the raw beauty of nature. He had traveled to Antarctica with a team of scientists from Australia, aiming to document the diverse wildlife of the region. His team included Dr. Helen Scott, a marine biologist, Mark Evans, an experienced polar guide, and Emily Brooks, a young researcher eager to learn. They were stationed at a research base near a large penguin colony on the coast. The day had started like any other. Lewis woke up early, eager to take advantage of the soft morning light. He had a cup of coffee with his team, discussing their plans for the day. The penguin colony was particularly active, and Lewis was excited to capture some stunning shots. The team geared up, wearing thick layers of clothing to protect against the biting cold. They packed their equipment and set out towards the colony. As they approached, the sounds of the penguins filled the air. Hundreds of them waddled around, their black and white bodies contrasting sharply with the snow. Lewis set up his camera, adjusting the lens and focus. He moved slowly, careful not to disturb the penguins. Dr. Scott and Emily took notes and collected samples while Mark kept a watchful eye on their surroundings. Leopard seals were known to inhabit the waters around Antarctica. These apex predators were formidable hunters, often preying on penguins. They were sleek and powerful, with a distinctive spotted coat. Despite their beauty, leopard seals were dangerous, and the team was always cautious when near the water's edge. Lewis was in his element, moving closer to the colony to get the perfect shot. He crouched low, the cold seeping through his gloves. The penguins seemed undisturbed, going about their business as usual. Lewis smiled, satisfied with the images he was capturing. The morning was progressing smoothly, and the team was in high spirits. The sun climbed higher, and the ice began to glisten. Lewis decided to get some closer shots of the penguins near the water. He signaled to his team, letting them know where he was heading. Mark followed, his eyes scanning the icy expanse for any signs of danger. They reached the edge of the colony, where the ice met the frigid waters of the Southern Ocean. Lewis knelt, adjusting his camera settings. The penguins were playful, diving in and out of the water. He focused on a group of them, their movements graceful and mesmerizing. Mark stood nearby, keeping a close watch on the surroundings. The air was crisp, and the only sounds were the calls of the penguins and the gentle lapping of the water. Without warning, the water erupted. A large leopard seal launched itself onto the ice, its powerful jaws snapping shut around one of the penguins. The attack was swift and brutal, a stark reminder of the harsh realities of nature. Lewis's heart raced as he instinctively took several photos of the scene. The seal's sleek body glistened in the sun, its eyes cold and focused. Then, in a horrifying turn of events, the leopard seal turned its attention to Lewis. Mistaking him for another prey, the seal lunged forward. Lewis barely had time to react. The massive predator's jaws closed around his leg, and pain shot through his body. He dropped his camera, his hands reaching out for anything to grab onto. Mark shouted to the others, his voice urgent and filled with fear. Dr. Scott and Emily rushed to help, their movements frantic. The leopard seal pulled Lewis towards the water, its powerful body thrashing and twisting. Lewis struggled, his hands finding his camera equipment. In a desperate bid to defend himself, he swung the heavy camera at the seal's head. The seal growled, its grip loosening slightly. Lewis kicked at it with his free leg, trying to push it away. The pain was excruciating, but adrenaline kept him fighting. Mark reached them using a long pole to try and pry the seal off. Dr. Scott and Emily grabbed Lewis's arms, pulling with all their strength. The seal was relentless, its jaws snapping and gnashing. Lewis continued to fend it off with his camera. Each strike met with a growl from the predator. The struggle seemed to last forever, but the combined efforts of his team began to take effect. Mark managed to wedge the pole into the seal's mouth, forcing it open just enough for Lewis to pull his leg free. Bleeding and exhausted, Lewis was dragged away from the water by his team. The seal, momentarily stunned, retreated into the water. The team moved quickly, wrapping Lewis's leg to stop the bleeding. The urgency of the situation drove them, and their actions were precise and coordinated. They had a small emergency kit with them, and Dr. Scott worked quickly to stabilize Lewis. His leg was badly injured and he was losing blood fast. Emily called for help on the radio, her voice shaking but clear. Mark kept watch, his eyes scanning the water for any signs of the seal's return. The minutes dragged on, each one filled with tension and fear. The team worked tirelessly, with their focus on keeping Lewis stable until help arrived. The cold air bit into their skin, but they barely noticed. Their friend was hurt, and nothing else mattered. Finally, a helicopter arrived, and the sound of its blades was a welcome relief. The medics took over, carefully lifting Lewis onto a stretcher. The team watched as he was flown to the nearest medical facility, their hearts heavy with worry. The attack had been sudden and violent, a stark reminder of the dangers that lurked in the wild. Lewis's survival was a testament to the quick actions of his team and his determination to fight back. The leopard seal had mistaken him for prey, but the courage and coordination of his friends had saved his life. The icy expanse of Antarctica was beautiful but unforgiving, a place where the line between life and death was thin and ever-present. In the turquoise waters of the Caribbean, just off the coast of Barbados, a group of friends set out for a day of snorkeling in May 2001. The sun was bright and the sea was calm, creating perfect conditions for exploring the vibrant coral reefs that thrived in the area. Among the group was Ian Turner, a 34-year-old travel writer with a passion for underwater photography. Ian had been looking forward to this trip for months, eager to capture the beauty of the Caribbean's marine life. Ian's companions included his longtime friend, Derek Hughes, a 36-year-old marine biologist, and Derek's younger sister, Claire Hughes, a 28-year-old teacher. The trio had rented a small boat for the day, piloted by a local guide named Luis Martinez. Luis knew the waters well and had taken them to a secluded spot known for its rich coral gardens and diverse fish species. The day had started early. Ian and his friends met at the dock just after sunrise, their spirits high and their gear packed. They chatted excitedly as they boarded the boat, with Ian already envisioning the photographs he would take. The boat ride was smooth, with the warm Caribbean breeze adding to the anticipation of their adventure. When they arrived at their destination, Luis anchored the boat, and they donned their snorkeling gear. Ian double-checked his underwater camera, ensuring it was securely fastened to his wrist. The water was inviting, its clarity revealing the vibrant coral and schools of fish below. Ian, Derek, and Claire slipped into the water, feeling the cool embrace of the sea. As they snorkeled, Ian marveled at the underwater world. The corals were alive with color, and the fish darted around them in a mesmerizing dance. Derek pointed out various species, sharing his knowledge of the marine ecosystem. Claire, although less experienced, was equally captivated, her eyes wide with wonder as she followed her brother's lead. About 30 minutes into their exploration, Ian noticed a glint of silver in the distance. He adjusted his position, trying to get a better look. What he saw made his heart skip a beat. A school of barracudas. These predatory fish were known for their sharp teeth and aggressive behavior, especially when attracted by shiny objects. Ian realized with a sinking feeling that his diving watch, reflecting the sunlight, was the source of their interest. The barracudas began to circle, their sleek bodies moving with unnerving precision. Ian's pulse quickened as he signaled to Derek and Claire, who were nearby. Derek's face mirrored Ian's concern as he recognized the potential danger. They needed to act quickly and calmly to avoid provoking the barracudas further. Ian knew he had to remove the source of attraction. With deliberate movements, he reached for his diving watch, trying to unbuckle it without making sudden gestures. The barracudas continued to circle, their eyes fixed on the glinting watch. Ian's fingers fumbled with the clasp, the tension making the task more difficult than usual. Derek and Claire hovered close, their bodies tense. They knew that any sudden movement could trigger an attack. Ian finally managed to unfasten the watch, and with a swift motion he dropped it to the sandy seabed below. The barracuda's attention shifted momentarily, their formation breaking as some darted after the falling object. Taking advantage of the distraction, Ian signaled for them to start a slow and steady swim back to the boat. They moved cautiously, their breaths controlled and even. The barracudas, although still present, seemed less interested now that the shiny object was gone. But the tension remained high. The fish were unpredictable and could become aggressive at any moment. As they swam, the water seemed to stretch on forever. Each stroke felt deliberate, the distance to the boat never shrinking fast enough. Ian kept his eyes on the barracudas, counting them, watching for any signs of renewed aggression. The barracudas maintained a loose circle, occasionally darting closer before retreating. Luis, still on the boat, noticed the group's deliberate pace and the barracudas surrounding them. He moved quickly, preparing to assist them as soon as they were within reach. Derek and Claire stayed close to Ian, their presence silent support as they moved through the water. The journey back felt interminable. Ian's muscles ached, but he pushed through the fatigue, his focus unwavering. The boat was now within reach, but the barracudas showed no signs of leaving. Luis leaned over the side, extending a pole for them to grab onto. Claire reached the boat first, her hand grabbing the pole firmly. Luis pulled her up quickly, her breathing heavy but controlled. Derek was next, his movements precise as he clambered aboard. Ian was the last, his senses on high alert as he grabbed the pole. Just as he was being pulled up, a barracuda made a swift pass, its teeth grazing his fin. Ian felt a sharp jolt of fear but remained calm, pulling himself onto the boat. Safely aboard, the group took a moment to catch their breath. The barracudas circled below, their presence a stark reminder of the encounter. Luis immediately radioed a warning to other boats in the area, advising them to avoid the spot until the barracudas had dispersed. He also checked to ensure no other snorkelers were in the water nearby. The tension slowly eased as the boat moved away from the area. Ian, Derek, and Claire sat in silence, processing what had just happened. The barracuda's aggression had been a stark reminder of the ocean's unpredictable nature. Ian felt a mix of relief and lingering fear. The close call was a sobering experience.